Welcome to the thrilling world of Filmoro. Today we're diving into the mysterious and chilling movie, Girl in the Basement. Everything begins in a quiet house in the suburbs, a home that looks peaceful from the outside. A father, a mother, and two daughters live there. The older daughter, after turning 18, has gone to college and now lives in a dorm, away from her parents. The father, Don, is a strict and orderly man who always wants everything to be under his control. His wife, Renee, is kind but deeply afraid of Don, and she usually gives in to whatever he demands. And then there's Sarah, a cheerful and energetic girl who loves music and adventure. She's about to turn 18, and like any other girl her age, she dreams of freedom, to travel, make friends, and escape the suffocating air of her home. That night, even though her mother had given her permission to go to a party, her father became furious as soon as he found out. But Sarah didn't give up. She quietly climbed out of her bedroom window and went to the party with her boyfriend, Chris. At the party, Chris and Sarah talked about their interests and the things they wanted to do in the future. Chris confessed his love to Sarah and played a beautiful song he had written just for her. Later that night, Sarah's parents went to her room to talk to her. But as soon as they entered, they realized she wasn't there. The window was open. Don, who was growing tired of Sarah's constant disobedience, waited for her outside the house the next morning. Sarah said goodbye to Chris with a kiss, but as soon as she got close to the house, Don stopped her and said, "As long as you live under my roof, you'll follow my rules." Just then, Renee arrived home, and Sarah quietly went up to her room. Her sister Amy followed her and said, "There's not much time left until your 18th birthday. Once that day comes, you can leave, but until then, just don't make Dad angry." But Sarah replied, "Someone has to stand up to him. He can't keep controlling everyone like this." Then she told her mother and Amy, "The moment I turn 18, I'm leaving this house. I want to travel the world, starting with Florida. Wherever I go, I'll work for a while and keep moving." Meanwhile, Don was eavesdropping from behind the door. Hearing her words, his face darkened with anger. He walked down to the basement, pushed a bookshelf aside, and opened a hidden door behind it. He stood there for a moment, thinking silently. 3 months passed. One day, while Sarah was talking to Chris on the phone, Renee said she was going to the store to buy some groceries. As soon as Renee left the house, Don called out, "Sarah, hang up the phone. I need your help." He handed her a box and said, "We need to take this to the basement." Sarah had never been inside that secret basement before. The moment they stepped inside, Don suddenly shut the door behind her. Sarah screamed and pounded on the walls, but they were soundproof. No one could hear her cries for help. Renee, worried sick, called all of Sarah's friends, but no one had seen her or heard from her. 4 days later, Don finally went down to check on Sarah. Sarah looked at him in fear and said, "Why are you doing this to me?" Don replied coldly, "Life is a series of interactions, choices, and their consequences. You chose to disrespect me, and now you have to live with the result." Sarah tried to escape, but the other door in the basement was also locked with a code. Don said, "From now on, you will obey me." Then he slapped Sarah across the face and assaulted her. Meanwhile, Renee reported her daughter missing to the police. When the officers came to investigate, Don calmly told them, "I don't think our daughter is missing. She left on her own. She always talked about traveling the world, and she told everyone about it." But deep down, Renee knew her daughter would never leave home without saying goodbye to her mother. During all this time, Sarah tried to survive by remembering that night at the party with Chris, and the song he sang just for her. A few days later, Chris came to Sarah's house to ask about her, but Don lied to him. He said, "Sarah's dating our neighbor Steve now." They both went to Florida together. Surprised she didn't tell you, Chris, shocked and heartbroken by what he heard, quietly left, not knowing that Sarah was trapped right beneath Don's feet. 21 days later, on Sarah's 18th birthday, Don brought her a cake and a red dress. He told her, "If you want everything I can give you, you must obey me." Sarah asked for a wall clock, but Don assaulted her again. Days passed, until one day, while Sarah was opening a can, she thought about using the sharp edge to attack her father. She put on the red dress, hid the lid of the can behind her back, and just as she was about to attack her father, Don grabbed it from her and beat her and assaulted her again, saying, "This is what happens to ungrateful little girls." A year went by. Sarah was in the final days of her pregnancy when her water broke. Following the natural childbirth techniques she had been reading about, she delivered a beautiful baby girl named Mary. Don was also pleased, feeling that Sarah becoming a mother had given her life a sense of purpose. 4 years later, Sarah became pregnant again. She told her father, "It's not too late. You can still let us out of this basement." He replied angrily, "If you leave here, I won't be able to come down and relax anymore," and stormed out. Renee suggested, "Now that you've been promoted and your salary increased, let's hire a private detective to find Sarah." Don angrily refused, saying, "I won't waste my money looking for Sarah." That Christmas, Don finally brought a television for Sarah, so at least Mary could experience the outside world through it. 7 years passed. Every time the children fell sick, Don would only buy them some medicine and tell Sarah, "You're a mother now. It's your job to take care of them." After a while, Chris returned looking for Sarah. He saw Amy at their house and asked her about Sarah's condition. Amy replied, "We haven't heard from Sarah." Chris told Amy, "Her father lied to me about this." Amy explained, My father is a psychotic man. He once hit my mother so badly she was hospitalized for 2 days. Either Sarah ran away on her own, or Dawn did something to her and doesn't want to tell. Amy shared everything with her mother. Dawn confronted them and said, I told Chris that lie so he wouldn't bother us anymore. Amy said, I know you know something, but you won't tell us. This time, Renee shouted at Dawn with immense courage. I'll get a job and use the money to hire a private detective, so we won't have to depend on you anymore. Amy noticed the basement key and picked it up to see what was inside. But moments later, Dawn appeared behind her and forced her out. Meanwhile, Sarah gave birth to her third child. She told Dawn, let Renee raise this baby. There isn't enough space here for 2 children, let alone 3. Dawn angrily replied, what kind of mother are you to abandon your child? But Sarah, wanting her child to grow up in a better environment, told Dawn, if you take this baby, I can spend more time taking care of you. The baby was placed in a basket behind the house door, with a note attached. Hearing the sound of the newborn, Renee opened the door. In the note, Sarah had written to her mother, this child is mine, and I can't handle the costs. Please raise them, and I will come to you when I get back on my feet. Overjoyed to hear that Sarah was alive, Renee brought the baby inside the house. Sarah had also left a small note for her mother in the basket, saying that she was trapped in the basement. But the note fell into Dawn's hands, and Renee never saw it. Dawn angrily returned to the basement and assaulted Sarah again. 14 years passed. Throughout all those years, Sarah did everything for her children to help them survive more comfortably in that harsh environment. Mary had grown up. One day she put on makeup and approached Dawn. Dawn looked at her with a predatory gaze, but Sarah, knowing Dawn was sick, pulled Mary away and said, don't go near Mary, she's still a child. Dawn left and turned off the lights. When the lights went out, the air purifier stopped working, and Mary developed asthma in the basement. Mary told her mother, I've grown up, but I still have no friends. I'll never meet any boys. Sarah reassured her, I won't let you stay here forever. I'll get you out one day. 17 years later, on a rainy night, drops of rain began leaking from the basement ceiling. It felt like a ray of hope for Sarah. Secretly, she started digging through the ceiling. Once she made a small hole, she shone her flashlight outside. A passerby on the street noticed the light and informed Dawn, saying, there's a light coming from your basement. Looks like someone is signaling. Enraged, Dawn rushed to the basement and began beating Sarah, even though he knew she was pregnant. Sarah started bleeding, and her baby was miscarried. That night, Dawn buried the baby's body in the garden of the house. Another year passed. Sarah asked Dawn about Thomas, and he said, he's athletic and is going to play on the baseball team. Michael said, I want to play too, so when can we get out of here? Dawn replied, because your mother cannot behave properly, you are stuck here. Everything depends on her. Sarah asked the children to stop the discussion. After Dawn left, the kids confronted Sarah. Why does Dawn treat you like garbage? Why don't you protest? Sarah answered, I do all of this to protect you. The children angrily said, it's your fault we are down here. You need to do something for us. Exhausted from everything, Sarah started screaming, throwing things around, and then lay down there. The children cleaned up and apologized to her. Sarah told them, you are grown now and need to know the truth, and she explained the whole story to them. The children became completely furious with Dawn. 19 years passed. Dawn had reduced Sarah and the children's food rations. Sarah protested, but Dawn kept talking nonsense to her. Michael angrily said, you have no right to talk to my mother like that. Dawn began belittling Michael. Thomas may be younger than you, but he is bigger and stronger. Michael in anger tried to attack Dawn, but Sarah stopped him. Their expenses had increased, and throughout this time Renee kept asking Dawn where he was spending all the money he earned, and why it ran out so quickly. Meanwhile, Dawn lost his job, and could no longer cover the costs. He decided to release car exhaust into the basement to suffocate the 3 of them. Suddenly, Thomas arrived. Dawn told Thomas, I made a wrong choice in my life that I thought was good, and now I have to fix it. Thomas hugged Dawn and said, I know you can handle this. Dawn reconsidered and gave up on his plan. After 20 years, Mary's asthma became severe. That same day, Thomas had a baseball game, and Dawn had celebrated it for him. It took a long time for Dawn to return to the basement after the celebration. Sarah told him, if we don't take Mary to the hospital now, she will die. But Dawn replied, I know if you step foot there, you'll expose me. Sarah begged him with tears, promising she wouldn't do anything. They took Mary to the hospital, and the doctors, with great effort, managed to save her from certain death. After reviving Mary, the doctor returned to Dawn and Sarah and said, we searched everywhere but found no medical records or vaccination history for Mary. Dawn replied, she was homeschooled and never went to school, and he took the forms from the doctor to fill out. Sarah, looking for a chance to escape Dawn, poured water on the admission form when his phone rang. Dawn said, don't move from there until I come back. Sarah used all her strength to reach the hospital staff and the security guard, telling them she needed help. The police arrested Dawn and rescued Michael from the basement. They were finally free from Dawn forever. The 3 children played together in the yard, and Renee was happy to have finally found Sarah. Chris returned to see Sarah and brought her a pink helmet, the same one he had planned to give her on her 18th birthday. He apologized for all the years Sarah had believed her father's lies, and, to help fulfill their youthful dream, took her for a ride on his motorcycle. If you enjoyed this recap, don't forget to hit that like button, and most importantly, make sure you subscribe right now, so you never miss the next movie recap. I've got 6 playlists from different genres, and I add new movies every single month. You can see them right here on the end screen. Hit subscribe first, then pick a playlist, and keep the adventure going.